Alright, so Greenway, we are streaming.
Well, I've just shut the door so they're going to have to fight their way in.
Man, we should turn off the air conditioner too.
Oh.
Damn cold under here. Damn cold.
Anything else?
No, that's about it.
Are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, you sure?
Just amuse everybody while I work out how to stop my phone turning off.
Amuse everybody. Oh, funny to watch you do it. I can't actually.
Are you in the picture?
Not really.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So you should have been here while I was setting up.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, you slake me. Anyway, I'm Margaret from a company called Stickmen Media in Christchurch, New Zealand, and this is my business partner, Brooke. We are streaming.
Yeah. And we're also Stickmen Media. Did we say that?
Yeah, I said that. You weren't.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So none of us is tuning in so far. So we're going to be talking about a game that we're making. We're going to be really talking about overall this whole streaming thing. We're going to be streaming every day at about the same time, or exactly the same time, talking about a game that we're making and talking through the production process of making that game. Because I think we've heard that there are a lot of people out there who are interested in this. There's not a lot of ways to connect necessarily. So people who are gamers don't necessarily know how to make games, or I don't know. I'm talking shit. Carry on.
Well, no, that's pretty close to it. So a lot of gamers are really interested in the process, but are gamers. They haven't actually necessarily learnt the things they would need to know to make the game.
Or what they might need to learn if they want to get into the games development industry.
Yeah, I guess so. This stream is more than for those that have just got an interest. It's probably for those that would like to know how you go about getting into the gaming industry.
So we're going to use our game called After the Light as a sort of template, I guess, or a kind of as we go through it step by step, the development of it. We'll be talking about that and the trials and tribulations and the failures and the complete fuck ups and disasters and the wins.
Yes, we've had.
Let's talk about the wins.
More to learn from talking about the fuck ups.
Truly.
Yeah.
We have tea. We're hardcore.
It's not really tea.
We're not really hardcore.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things we talked about yesterday, and I guess yesterday's talk was pretty information dense.
It was so dry.
Yeah. I said that in the comments at the end, and you said, don't put that on the comments, everybody will read it. The truth is, it was dry. But we basically went through and talked about... I just got completely distracted by somebody hosting our stream there, which is great.
They're not hosting us, they've joined us.
Joined us. I thought it said hosting our stream with 12 viewers or something.
Just keep going.
All right.
Just move on.
I need to have my glasses either on or off, but not halfway down. So yesterday we basically recapped a blog post that I did about what it takes to make a video game. And as I said, pretty information dense, and I thought today we could probably...
lighten the fuck up.
Yes. Thank you, Margaret. Lighten the fuck up. And also give you some examples, I guess, from our own game design document of the sorts of things that that we do. I just noticed we're not actually doing our background thing.
By our background thing, you mean?
Yeah, our background's not...
oh, it's not playing.
Not playing. There we go.
Oh, dear God. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, no, it's me moving furniture again.
No, it's not you moving furniture. This is actually before you moving furniture.
No, this is... oh, God. Yesterday the background was all about us moving furniture.
It was distracting, yes.
It really was.
We had to push that cupboard that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen across to the left-hand side of the screen so that we could fit an extra desk in.
So distracting. Anyway.
It was distracting.
But what you're actually seeing here now, you might want to explain a little bit about what you can see in the background.
Oh, okay. I look like I'm wandering around the...
Not you.
Okay, Sergi, on the other hand, looks like he's actually trying one of our characters. Yeah, we just realised the camera's on him. I think we did cover some of this yesterday, so we've had a bit of overlap here. So he's actually going through the level, the overall level layout, and he's positioning. Or no, he's not. He's actually got one of our characters on a background that's nothing to do with our game. But it looks like he is trying to sort out where to put that character. So he's going through the overall level plan. You can see that level plan is in.
I'll kill that.
Margaret's decided to watch movies or something while we do
Actually,
this.
it's Twitch.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, watch Twitch. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And in fact, we should be watching Twitch as well. So
I was really thinking that we might talk about what Sergi's actually doing on a screen there rather than that piece of paper.
Yeah. So what he's doing on that screen there, as far as I could tell, was he was trying out one of our characters, a boss character, in the actual. It was a host. There we are. Told you.
Come on.
Yeah, so he's trying out one of our boss characters there, and that boss character isn't finished. I think you might have seen it at a later stage yesterday, where the armour has a lot of gold on it. At the moment, the armour doesn't seem to have a material. It all looks a bit leaden. It's interesting. I don't know whether you guys will know whether, or will want to know in advance who the characters in the game are actually going to be. So,
Fuck it, we'll tell you anyway.
Fuck it. Who's that? Is this a Twitch follower or what? Yeah.
Oh dear.
So yeah, I guess the Twitch audience will let us know if you want to know about characters in the game or not ahead of time. I consider it that the Twitch audience is going to be a. I'm just watching you laugh there. Twitch audience is going to be the privileged spectators of the development of the game. So you will get to see stuff that the new audience will be surprised by when it actually happens. So you'll certainly get to see the levels before anybody gets to see the levels. You'll get to see most of the characters before anybody actually sees those.
Here we go.
We seem to have dropped out for a moment there.
It's all right. Carry on.
Okay, they are moving furniture, so I didn't quite move that far enough.
Never mind.
We'll let that pass. All right. Yeah, so...
So today we're flying by the seat of our pants.
We are, I guess, to
Brooke
be a
says he
little...
doesn't know what we're going to talk about, so I'm just going to sit here and take the piss, mock.
That was sort of deliberate. After yesterday's information-dense session, we decided to wing it a bit and just talk more about I guess in the way we normally talk about level design, the game and our stuff.
We can't fight on Twitch.
We can fight on Twitch. That's the entertainment value. That's why people come to the stream.
Right.
They come to. We are going to set up a swear jar for Margaret. We think that's very, very important.
I cannot. I would love to be paid to swear. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be a dream come true. That would be a career move for me. That would be extremely exciting.
So far, Margaret's been very well behaved. You have no idea.
I'm being restrained.
Yeah. We did tell them about where you were training people to swear in various languages.
Well, I wasn't training people to swear in various languages, but I did recruit people to teach people to swear in various languages, which I think is an awesome thing to do.
Yeah. And yeah, we must have another one of those sessions soon. We did get asked today when we were doing it retrospective, so maybe.
Yep. We might do an entire Twitch session. We might get some of the developers in to dedicate some of their time to some international swearing.
Feel free to vote about that if you want to learn how to swear in the various languages.
If you want to teach us how to swear.
Even that, yes.
Anybody out there want to teach us how to swear, we want to know about it.
We'll have a special Margaret session where that's done.
Oh my God.
We seem to be having a few dropouts here with Twitch.
And we're back.
We are back. Let's ask who's Enter Dreamland. Can you actually let us know whether we're actually dropping out there? There was some sort of hold up on our side, so we couldn't see what was going. It's not dropping out for you, so we when we're talking and complaining about it, You don't even know what we're talking about. That's great.
Well, stop talking about it.
Yeah, we'll just carry on. Okay. Shall we get back to...
If we must.
I guess yesterday we talked a little bit about the game design document and how important that was for the process as the main communication tool between developers and somebody that might want to be the producer, or between the development team and somebody that's going to fund the game, or between the guy with the vision and the rest of the team when it first starts out as a game concept document. So we thought we'd give you some excerpts from ours that might make it interesting for you to make concrete some of the things you actually heard yesterday. And I thought I'd start off with the overview of our game, and I guess Margaret can weigh in on whether it describes it or not, because you haven't actually critiqued this at all, have you, at this point?
No, I read it. I didn't find anything to particularly critique it, I think.
Okay.
It seemed to agree with everything I thought.
As an overview of the game, we said After the Light is a zombie survival horror game that takes place in the catacombs, where the souls of the dead have been released back into their earthly corpses. The action takes place in 4 caverns of the catacombs, with several waves of zombies in each cavern. So that's the broad description. And later on, when we go into core gameplay, we sort of bring out the detail of that. I guess, was there anything else I needed to actually explain in that overview that I missed, if we were critiquing this right now?
I tuned out. No, I think we'll probably pick up the details as we go on.
All right. Do you want me to give you the details, and then we'll see if we actually missed it?
Well, let's talk about the general mood of the game and the general sort of style of it, and kind of be a bit more of an overview.
So what's your feeling of what the mood of the game should be?
It's moody.
It's moody.
It's moody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is moody a mood?
It is now. I think so. It's kind of, it's... Actually, I don't really know. Moody is probably about the best word I've got for it. I mean, the scenery, the environment is beautiful and cave-like, being that it's in a cave. I don't know.
So,
I should know,
highly
I can't think of the
atmospheric.
right words.
Actually, we've had the advantage. You guys
it's got
haven't. Yeah. You guys haven't seen this yet, but we will actually show you some stuff inside the cave, probably in next week's stream, on Monday's stream next week.
Yeah, I won't be here for that.
Which will be... Oh, you won't?
No.
You won't?
No, I'll be
Fiona maybe.
doing a businessy thing.
Cool. All right. Shall we pull Fiona in for that one?
Maybe.
Fiona, if you're listening, you've got some work to do next Monday. So the game is highly atmospheric, so it takes place in these catacombs, and each catacomb has a mood that's sort of exemplified in the lighting and how large or cavernous the actual catacombs area is, and how much man-made interference there sort of is in the catacombs. So to give an example of that, the first areas, the first set of caves that you are actually in for the beginning levels, they still have moonlight reaching them through holes in the ceiling, so much of the cavern is actually moonlit, and there's lots of evidence of man. There's a big elevator that can go up and down into the caverns. I'm not sure if we actually see that in the game, but we know it's in the concept art. There's stairways, there's statues.
When you say we're not sure if it's in the game or not, because we haven't made that decision yet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not because we're leaving it up to chance or...
Depends how early we start. I just saw something funny, which was Drew running out of that door to go and scare somebody. In the doorway behind us.
So just to explain, the building that we're in is a collaborative office space, and there's quite a lot of pranking and jump scaring goes along with that in this particular building. So we're pretty much on the lookout for anything suspicious.
Drew.
Yeah, Drew. If you're listening, scary fucker, sneaky as fuck.
Yeah. So those first cave levels, so they have this mood. It's a little bit light and airy. It's not really claustrophobic at all. Everything's a little bit cathedral-like, so large and spacious, really. So there's I guess there's still sounds like that you can get from the surface. So you still have a bit of wind sound and so forth that actually penetrates the caves, and that creates a particular sort of mood or feeling if you're actually in that cave system.
For sure.
Yeah.
The mood changes as you go down, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So when you go
still
down,
moody.
Yeah.
It's just a different shade of moody.
Yeah, I'm not sure moody's a mood. I think moody's sort of deferring the answer to what the mood is. The mood's definitely got to be scary. One way or another, each of those levels is scary, but they all have it in a different way and evoked by different things, I think. So, more than moody.
So what do the other companies in the building do? So they're all tech companies of one description or another. We have a web design company who lives right next door. They're good friends of ours. Everybody, I think, is software. Is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty much a software-based building, so almost everybody's into software one way or another. People across the hall make some
gym management
software.
There's online marketing.
There are 3 games companies in this building, which is really surprising considering how few games companies were when we started in 2008.
And we might actually bring in some guys and gals, just to be clear, from those companies to talk to.
I think that's a good idea, actually, introduce you to some of the other games companies in the building. That'd make a great stream. Yeah. So where was I on the cave descriptions? We've just done the Twilight, the Moonlight levels. As you move down to the next level of caves, there's no wind, there's no moonlight, so you're starting to get the drippy, wet sort of sound in the sound atmosphere, and we should talk more about sound later. But almost everything is torch lit or brazier lit, so there's lots of oranges and reds in the actual environment. Deep shadows outside of the lit areas, unlike the first level where the shadows weren't so deep and you could actually see into them. The spaces the spaces are still fairly cavernous, but there's lots of restricted areas, so you're starting to get these little moments of claustrophobia and so forth actually happening to you, and that's amplified by the fact that the shadows are deep. You can't really see very far in any one direction unless it's torch lit, so you're seeing pools of light over the place. Anything else to say about that?
No, I got nothing.
Okay.
It's cool. It's different. The first level is different from the second level, and it's got a really different feeling and a really different atmosphere. So it's not just like one cave is a cave is a cave. It feels like a different space and a different kind of mood and a different kind of. It starts to get a little bit more sinister and a little bit more creepy and
yeah,
and more claustrophobic.
The sense is that you are descending, so you're getting deeper, and things do become more claustrophobic the further you go down. Which is, part of the challenge, part of the mood, and part of what we're trying to make really wonderful for you in the game, so that you really get a sense of being there. So the third area is an area where there's not even torchlight. Basically, it tends to be the ancient buried soldiers down in this level. So soldiers from centuries before, so they actually become bony zombies in this level. And the lighting is...
Bony-faced sniffers.
No, let's not give away that.
That's out now.
No, well, people will be curious about it. They don't know what it is.
I don't even know what it is. I think that's something in your own fucked up little world.
That should be something that saves us from early disclosure. Don't tell Margaret.
Who's not going to talk about bony-faced sniffers?
Yeah. Yeah, so the lower levels are lit with this bioluminescent fungi and moss and stuff in there. So the colour palette is much more green. There are almost no shadows because the moss is sort of grown everywhere. But where there are shadows, it's really pitch black. You can't see. So everything feels a little flatter, and the tunnels and caves are more constrained, and they make for a very claustrophobic experience when you actually get down to these levels. The other neat thing about when you're down with the military dead is those are zombies that actually know how to fight, so they become quite a challenge at that point. And I guess the fourth, we're calling it a level, but it's really all about the boss fight. So the fourth level supports the boss fight, and that's actually got some golden lighting, basically, because there's a lot of gold in the level, including on the boss. So there will be torches in that level and a lot of gold reflections. So and it's an area specifically made for the boss fight. So it's got props and ledges, and the layout of the thing is about how you go about fighting this thing. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So we certainly don't go into that level of detail when we're in the document, but I did get told the other day that we really should by somebody that actually worked for a decent studio in the US. So our ears pricked up at that, and he said we need to do a much better job of explaining in our document the progress and mood of the game. So
one of the things that's really important about this is that this is a process for us. We've made a lot of games before, but we're always making new games, and some of that process is very similar and very familiar, and some of it's very novel, and we don't always get it right first time. So we're always listening for feedback from people who know better than us, or at least think they know better than us, or have some opinion or have some experience and knowledge about it.
Yeah, shout out to Kevin, formerly of Backflip. I think you can see on...
And actually this whole streaming thing is going to be largely about that. It's not just going to be, cool, this is something fantastic we've just done and it's all fantastic and wonderful, but we're going to be talking about the adjustments we have to make along the way, and the freaky bits, and the, oh my god, how the fuck do we do that, and how did we fuck that up, and all of those things that go into making a game, really.
Yeah. I think what you're about to see on the background, by the way, because we were just talking about the caves, is Lincoln actually doing some of the level design in the caves. I'm not sure if you'll get a good view here. The flat screen doesn't do justice to what Lincoln ends up seeing in, or what
dark as well.
What we've all done in VR. Yeah, the screen looks a bit dark from here.
Still less bizarre than watching Lincoln walking backwards and forwards with computers and desks, though.
Yes. This is what Lincoln does when he's not moving furniture.
We don't get him to do that often.
No. In fact, that was probably the first time since we've been here.
No, it's the second time.
We happened to stream it, was it?
Yeah. We didn't stream it the first time.
We moved office, actually.
We did.
Didn't we? We were in a much smaller office, and we've moved into quite a sizable office here, almost cathedral-like itself. If our camera wasn't a laptop, we would show you around a bit more. Perhaps at some point when our camera isn't a laptop, we'll do that. We are planning to buy some equipment to make this
and
streaming more seamless.
The cool woman that I did the podcast with this morning can show me a whole lot about that stuff.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
cool mics and everything.
Who's the cool woman that you did the podcast with?
Oh, well, we'll sort that out later. So.
Oh. Is this... Marion, is it?
No, Marion's the CEO.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
Anyway, moving on.
Somebody you did a podcast with.
Yes, somebody very, very cool.
Okay.
I did a podcast with somebody this morning. When it's actually out and about, we'll talk about it. I think it takes about a month before it's published. Anyway, apparently, big following. Super cool. Really, really cool. It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
But she has some awesome equipment.
Okay, so I guess Margaret's gone mad for fame now, having started streaming. She's just into everything. Podcasting.
Yeah, I put my hand up and volunteered. No, I didn't. I was asked and I politely accepted.
Very good.
Mm.
Okay.
I feel a little bit like Wayne's World right now.
Yeah, but we don't have those cool, like we haven't worked out a Wayne's World or
No.
anything cool to actually sort of break things up or build up the energy. I desperately want energy. I do not want to be Matt's granddad doing tech. That's really depressing.
Well, part of the problem, I don't know whether everybody can see, but we've got a bunch of people actually doing work in the background. That's kind of, it's a little bit tricky being a little too high energy and a little bit loud when there's people actually working.
Yeah, guitar riffs become a little
They're disturbing
problematic.
and distracting, yeah.
Yeah, we do actually have a live game studio operating behind us, and you're going to see more about that. Oh, you might notice eyeballs on our Oculus Rift there. So we actually have Oculus Rifts and 5 headsets in here, and in fact a few Samsung Gears and all sorts of things that we've actually picked up over time as we've played with virtual reality. But one of the developers bought a whole bag of plastic
I'm going to get them.
eyeballs that have been stuck to the front of all our headsets. So for anybody not in the headset, they always get the comical view of somebody with a pair of eyeballs on the front of their headset actually moving their head around. Okay. What are we doing?
Oh, I don't know. I've just stolen Ben's eyeballs. Or borrowed. He actually lent them. Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a bag of eyeballs.
This is the bag of eyeballs. They go on everything. They may, in fact, be better than normal eyeballs. But anyway, we have a kit complete with tape and scissors.
So, yeah, so we've attached eyeballs.
Don't be surprised if they show up.
Were you to come in and visit our establishment, visit our studio, you would find that all the headsets have eyeballs. Right?
Right, carry on.
Okay, so the part of the document that I guess we were talking about before, we did the overview, and there needed to be more description of the gameplay and game mechanics. So there's a couple of paragraphs here that says the game does not include roving through the world. So in our game, you won't be walking around anywhere in these caves. The player plays each wave from a single fixed position. So this is very much like the Brookhaven experiment. It's less like Arizona Sunshine, where you can jump around. This is specifically putting you in a particular place where you've got a particular challenge to actually to do, so the player plays each wave from a single fixed position where they must determine a strategy to survive the wave and kill all the zombies. Ammunition will be deliberately scarce, and as a last resort, players can club a zombie with their weapon, but this is not very effective, so you'll take some damage if you end up in a position where you've got to club the zombies to death. So the player needs to plan their shots, taking advantage of props and the environment. Props, for those people who don't know, is all the stuff that gets littered around the environment. So, there might be barrels and a cat and barrels and a cat. I think I'm just thinking of the world of this game and what's actually happening above ground. So there would be things like hitching posts and street lamps and all sorts of other things that we call props when we're actually designing the game. You can't keep those on for the whole thing because I just crack up every time I turn around.
Oh shit. Quite stuck. The player needs to plan their shots, taking advantage of the
props in the environment. For some levels, they will have plenty of time, and for others, the play will be very fast, and the player will have to make all these decisions under pressure. God, now I can see on the stream.
There's a lag here. We can see it. I can now see myself with the eyeballs.
Yeah. So the key player actions are to aim, to shoot, to club with their weapon, which is automatic when the weapon's empty. You switch to clubbing with it. Tactical prioritisation of shooting direction as groups converge. Groups of zombies actually converge on you. And there'll be a grenade throw as well. We do want an area effect weapon, so the grenade seems to be the logical one to actually go with. And when the wave is finished, the player is then teleported to the next area and the next challenge. So did that actually cover the whole of the game between the overview and that?
Yeah, probably. But if anybody wants to ask questions, that would also be super cool. Sometimes it's difficult to see the wood for the trees because we're so much in it, and part of this is getting people's reaction. We actually want feedback. We really want to hear what you think about it, and if you've got questions or comments, or let us know.
Yeah. So yeah, then
or stay silent.
Yeah, we dive into the business side of the thing there, and I won't give you all the details of the business side, but we've determined that the targeted platforms, the people we could actually build this game for, is Steam or PlayStation VR, and if we're just doing the normal version of the game, the non-VR version of the game, then also Steam, PlayStation and Xbox would probably be the likely targets where we should, send off our concept document and basically start working out what we can afford to do and what would be wise for us to do. And importantly, if we're doing releases on any of the consoles like PlayStation or Xbox, what our release schedule would be, because you have to concentrate on one over the other. At some point with a small studio like ours, you wouldn't have two teams running simultaneously, so that you're getting them on the platform simultaneously. You'd be doing one of the consoles first, and then following up with the next one. And some of that's actually determined by negotiations with the console owner. So the PlayStations or Microsofts might well have a say in whether they want to be the first with this, or have some period of exclusivity, which, as I said yesterday, is a discussion I'd love to have with a console manufacturer at some point. Yeah, and rather than giving any projections, I'll just say our monetization model for this is premium. We're just going to sell the game, basically, put a price tag on it and sell it. We will probably build in the capacity to install new levels online, and that would give us the option, if people really like the game but want more gameplay, that they could in fact buy new levels. So this is an idea that's in discussion. We'll build the software to support it, but we haven't actually made a strong decision on it at this point. And the nice thing is, if we have the capacity to download new levels, then it's a decision that could be made after we've actually deployed the game, after we've actually put it out there. Yeah. So I guess that's monetization. Did you have anything to say about monetization?
Not really, not a whole lot. Except that this really is, as we're talking about it, first of all, I'm incredibly aware of my accent for some obscure reason. But also aware of...
You don't have much of a Kiwi accent.
Oh, I do. It's horrible.
If you did, you'd say accent instead of, or accent.
I thought I did. Anyway.
Instead of accent. Or maybe I'm becoming more Kiwi and I can't hear it anymore.
You are becoming more Kiwi, for sure.
You just said that with a Melbourne accent.
Oh, shit. Which is odd, since I've just been in Sydney.
Yeah. Now, Sydney, you said with a Sydney accent.
Yeah. Right?
Okay, yeah.
But not when I was in Sydney. I was all about West Australia.
Yeah.
Which I can't do when I'm in Perth.
No. No, actually, it's amazing similarities between West Australian accent and the Queensland accent, especially when you
Turns
get out
out.
country. Yeah, and then on opposite sides of the country, it's really bizarre.
Yeah. Anyway, I've become hyper aware of it now. But also, just as we're talking, there's so much that's still relatively malleable in this. So the monetization of it, the level design, all kinds of things that are still kind of structured, laid out, but it's still open for discussion and decision making and new ideas. And at this stage, it's all fairly reasonably fluid.
Just noticed in the background that it'll be coming up on the screen shortly that Lincoln's actually about to open another
There we go.
cave system here. It's got too much light in that one. I'll have a look around, but essentially, so this is one of the claustrophobic areas as you go deep, and it doesn't. I can't see the colouring of it yet, but you'll see low ceilings and niches in the walls. So it's really starting to have that claustrophobic feel to it. Less so as he's moved it around and stuck your head through the ceiling, which is, I guess, an insight that you won't see in the game, hopefully. You won't be able to do that. Yeah.
Alright, so since we're flying by the seat of the pants and it was all your idea, now what do you want to talk about?
The rest. I guess there's a discussion, we didn't really talk about this yesterday, but there is a discussion in the game design document about project scope. So we always have some idea of how long it's going to take to build, how long it's going to take to get to a demonstration level, and things that might cause cost blowouts. For example, we had another boss in the game before we had King Leon, and this guy, particularly terrifying in his own right and grotesque, really grotesque character in his own right, but unfortunately had too much of a cartoon feel to him. Not so much cartoon, but he just felt more like an Arkham Asylum character than a character in this story. And we had to discard that character and use another character from the novel, King Leon. So that's one of the things that sort of blew the time frame out. And people wonder how these things actually happen, how, people promise you a game, Duke Nukem's going to be out next month, and then 2 years later, Duke Nukem's going to be out in 3 months. These sorts of things happen. Actually, I'm not quite sure what went wrong with that particular one, but I can see in our own stuff that things happen because of creative decisions. That's one thing that does happen. People just decide something's not working creatively. There are strategic decisions, so supporting one console over another might involve you suddenly switching and doing more on a control set for somebody, and that can change the time frame. It'll certainly change your release schedule because you'll reorder where you're going to release. Publishers can impose schedules on you, so although it's not always wise to do, but they'll say something like, this has got to be out before Christmas, and your original schedule might be March the following year. And I guess for those that are knowledgeable in project management, you know that you can't necessarily solve problems of reducing time frame by actually adding resource. In fact, adding resource, the moment you do it, adds a significant slowdown to what you're doing, because you need to take time to bring the new team up to speed. That's my rambling on a bit about project scope. But yeah, so we have a project scope, we have a schedule. I'm not just going to release that just yet. That needs more internal discussion to actually solidify it, and then we'll actually talk about it with our audience. Although I suppose we could involve our audience in solidifying it. which would be interesting. Oh, geez, I see what you mean about the sound budget. There was not much sound budget. We might need to revise that.
You think?
I do think.
Yeah, I really do think.
Considering how important the background ambience, the music and the soundscape together, we really want to do well, because I think it really is an important part of the mood of the game. So yeah, we're going to have to increase our sound and music budget there. I'm not sure how, but definitely something should be in there. We also talk about our influences in the that helped us decide what the game would actually be like and look like. So we've mentioned Brookhaven Experiment and Arizona Sunshine. Another one that was added was Robotron, which was an arena shooter, which was where the player has to decide where to concentrate their fire. That's really one of the things we want in this game. You have to decide, you have to make some strategic decision about where you shoot, what you shoot first, because you're going to be limited in ammunition and weapons each time you actually engage with the zombies. And that's going to be part of the thing that you'll enjoy, is actually pulling off, a significant clearing of wave with, the optimal number of optimum pieces of ammunition.
So what's so cool about zombies, do you reckon?
Oh, this got asked yesterday.
Why do humans have this fascination with zombies that just seems to keep going? I think it's freaking huge fun shooting zombies, but I don't really know why.
Yeah, I guess the monstrousness in the zombie is sort of the familiarity. You recognise them as human, and yet their motivations and, more importantly, their allegiance is no longer human.
Why does that make them fun? Why does that make them something you just really can't help but want to kill? Because I was in the game before, right? So I was in 2 of the cave levels, and I don't have to kill the zombies. They can't do anything to me, and I'm in VR anyway. It's not real, and they're all piling up beside me. But I really wanted to shoot them. Really, really, really just wanted to kill them, just for no reason. I could just have left them there and looked around and checked out the environment, but there's something really freaking cool about killing zombies.
I think especially those zombies. One of the things, we'll show you some of the gameplay in the level shortly, next week. I promise next week. We'll show you some gameplay in the levels. But the zombies at the moment do not have physics constraints on them, so they do have ragdoll physics attached to them. So zombies will be cycling or using some particular animation, using usually the walk cycle as they're coming towards you, or if they're close to you, the attack cycle. They'll be trying to attack you. And when you shoot them, what we do is we switch off the animations and allow ragdoll physics to take over, so the zombie basically drops to the ground at that point. Now normally they would have physics constraints on them, so that would control the ways they could drop. So we make sure that the knee, with physics constraints, the knees wouldn't bend backwards, the elbows wouldn't bend backwards, or all the rest of it. It's really
fun when
they do. Without physics constraints at the moment, they just drop any old how. They drop like a bag of jelly, and they
usually towards you.
And it looks well. Actually, have you tried shooting them in the foot?
No, I have not.
Shoot them in the foot. That's really funny, because if you shoot them in the head, they get sort of thrown. If you shoot them in the foot, they tend to collapse. That is really funny. Yeah, so we'll show you some of that in development next week, so you can get a sense of just how much fun it is already without even having the fixed gameplay elements in there. Just shooting the zombies as they come towards you.
But what is it about zombies per se? Because I totally get it about the physics. That is definitely hilarious.
Yeah.
Because vampires also cool, but not so popular.
Yeah, well, vampires also cool. Vampires have the sexual element that the zombies don't. So I sort of understand what makes a vampire cool, and that you can be attracted as well as repulsed by it, so I can see the psychological conflict that makes a vampire really cool. The zombie's a little harder to pinpoint, and that the zombie, I think, I guess we naturally have a fear of death, and this thing represents better than anything else in the world death. This is what happens to you later. And when you have taken away the human motivations and the actual features that make a person beautiful or attractive in any sense, even recognizable as human, and you sort of, the zombie looks enough human that you would hope for human behavior, and yet it's not motivated by human needs, and some zombies are motivated by brains. Ours aren't motivated by brains. Ours are just stupid and destructive because they can't really remember their life. They come back with a spirit and no real memory, so they basically pursue the living because life is what they want. But yeah, so they're horrifying from the point of view is they do not have human motivation. They are not aligned with humans, but they look enough like humans. They could be your relatives. They could be, and there's something we absolutely know shouldn't be alive and shouldn't be coming towards you. So, yeah.
Maybe they sort of cover all bases, like the word fuck. It can be a verb and a adjective and a noun.
Okay. How do they cover all
they're
bases?
terrifying. They're terrifying. They're scary. They're familiar. They're funny. All aspects of human care. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to swear.
One of the things that I think makes some monsters scary is relentlessness. I remember having a dream when I was a kid about Frankenstein. I had watched Frankenstein on television, the Boris Karloff one. Actually, really insightful. If you ever get the movie, if you get the chance, watch that movie called Gods and Monsters. I think I've talked to you about it before. All about James Whale, who actually directed the Boris Karloff Frankenstein movie. Really interesting stuff. If you want to learn about horror. I was saying, I completely distracted myself. But yeah, I had this dream when I was a kid about a Frankenstein monster pursuing me. And the thing was, this thing was slow as anything. It was sort of staggering along from side to side, coming towards me. But it was completely relentless. It didn't matter where I went or where I hid or whatever. It was always after me. And that was terrifying. It was the relentlessness. Now, I think zombies certainly have that. They don't necessarily move fast. When they do, that is a shock and a surprise as well. But yeah, the relentlessness of them, the fact that they just won't give up, is certainly part of the horror. Yeah. If that answered that. We don't always have to do zombie games, by the way.
This is completely true.
I do have an idea for a really cool vampire game.
Indeed.
Yeah. Based on another unpublished novel.
And the stuff we do on day to day is typically rather cute and for kids.
Yeah.
Not a zombie in sight.
Yeah, we have done a lot of kids' games. Basically supported a local television show, or a game that supports a local television show. We did. It's sort of featured on our website, and that shows you the sort of cute stuff that we have done. So it's nice to get into this stuff that's got more psychological depth and is more challenging. I really enjoyed it. I've been a fan of horror since forever. So I used to sneak into the room when my parents were watching horror movies on, whatever Friday nights were called something. It was Creature Night or something on our local TV station. And so I used to sneak behind the couch when my parents weren't looking and sort of peek out around the corner and actually watch these movies and get absolutely terrified to the point where I couldn't sleep. So
it's a genius strategy.
Yeah, my parents weren't happy about it. But I love them. And terror or not, I absolutely love them. Nightmares or not, I absolutely love them. I just love the way the challenge that they represented to to my mind. I love that moment. What about you? Were you a horror fan?
Oh yeah, we used to watch. My sister and my mother and I sometimes used to watch the Friday night horrors, and my sister was not a fan of Cujo, and she's also not a fan of snakes, and she's also not a fan of spiders. So the movies that were playing at that time weren't really quite up her alley.
Oh man, there's a generational difference between you and me. You remember Cujo and eight-legged freaks, I suppose, and things like that, and I'm remembering Boris Karloff playing Frankenstein and Christopher Lee playing Dracula.
The cool thing about the snakes and the spiders is that they sort of lend themselves to awesome practical jokes on people who are already a little overstimulated and oversensitized. Oh, one night we watched a movie about spiders, a lot of spiders everywhere, and Jenny wasn't entirely happy about it.
She'd be happy you mentioned her on
Oh Twitch. Yeah, she'd be thrilled. I don't think she's watching, but
somebody will tell.
Yeah, maybe. But I happen to have a massive rubber spider on a piece of elastic, and called Ida. I wasn't very old.
Ida's a spider.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay.
And I got my spider. This is after the movie at about 12 o'clock at night. Went and got my spider out of its box and creeped around into her room and happened to find her looking for something deep in her wardrobe. And waited with the spider dangling right behind her. She turned around and looked up and lost her shit. And it was an extremely rewarding moment. And then I followed that up by putting the spider into my mother's bed. Okay. Really deep down where she didn't immediately see it.
How did your mum react to that?
That was also very rewarding. Okay. Yeah.
Very good. Were you popular at that point?
Not especially. No.
Okay. One of the things, back to the document, if I might. One of the things we did talk about yesterday was the elevator pitch, or I think we mentioned it in passing, elevator pitch. Oh, I see Lincoln is about to do something. We'll see something in a minute. Where he gets inside one of the mossy levels, you can see the green. Yeah, we talked about the elevator pitch. So this is the elevator pitch for After the Light. I guess I've only cleared this externally with Kevin. Thank you again, Kevin. I basically said, in After the Light, a player alone in a virtual reality cabin will attempt to clear a catacomb of zombies using several steampunk weapons. This is a compelling zombie survival horror to be distributed on Steam VR, but with potential to develop a PlayStation VR version. Beautifully eerie levels are filled with a variety of menacing revenant that the player must defeat on the way to defeat the bloated zombie boss who guards the entrance to the Halls of the Dead. Occasionally, the relentless horror is punctuated by moments of comedy. Okay, I've already noticed a mistake in that, because it's not the bloated zombie boss. That's the one we've actually disposed of now, and it is, in fact, King Leon, who is...
If that's the elevator pitch, that's an awfully tall building.
Yes, well, you're supposed to be able to do that I can do that in 7 floors. I could easily do that in 7 floors. The other thing that's missing from that as an elevator pitch is actually the commercial potential. Elevator pitch is predominantly something you put together for investors, and the investors want to know what they're going to spend and what they're going to make. So that's two things that are actually missing from that pitch.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bit of a far pitch, actually. Should have looked at that before I went to air with it. Yeah. One of the other things we're going to include in the game, and I've always felt that horror and humour are closely related, and they're sort of opposite ends of a piece of string, actually, that's sort of, pulling your nerves tight. That occasionally, during moments of horror, if you punctuate that with a little bit of humour, you can give the person an enormous amount of release. And you often see this in horror movies, that some particularly tense moment might actually lead, where you're expecting, a jump scare or a big boss or something, might actually end up in something that's quite comical. So I think that's made use of in other things. And I'd like to include moments of humour inside this game. So, there's lots of potential for humour. There's particular zombie actions that could actually happen. Particular constraints we could actually enact that would make the thing funny. Even weapons that might behave strangely could be moments of humour that we could inject into the game. We're considering, that during this game there's likely to be about 60 waves of zombie attacks, so you're definitely going to need a few breaks in there at some point. I can just see on the background here that Lincoln's actually pointing out what he was pointing out to Sergi earlier. This is the initial level map. So you can see it's divided. So this is without the boss area, right? So there's no boss area in this. But it's the 3 levels of caves. That's the 3 columns that you can actually see across the page there. And he's put at least one representative cave on each level so far. That's how far we've actually gotten. But he will actually be filling in those blank squares, the blue squares, that you can see him pointing out now. And he's explaining the mood and tenor of each of those areas. Yeah, at some point, I don't know what I was doing there with waving my arms about like that. But and Margaret too?
I'm a poster child for ADHD.
Okay. So we're actually describing something that's not on the stream yet, but you'll see that in a moment. Me do something that looks like a hissy fit, and then you do something that looks like cat crawling. So I think on our stream we should actually show that level plan and let you see it in development. Again, happy to hear from people who think there is stuff we shouldn't be giving away that they actually want to be surprised with in the game. I'm currently viewing the Twitch viewers as a privileged audience, but perhaps there are things you would just like to. That's when I did it, my little sooky hands or whatever. And Margaret's about to do the scratchy thing. So happy to hear from you if you've got opinions that way. We're just about at the end of our stream, so unless somebody has some questions or something they want to throw at us, we're about ready to sign off, I think.
Just about. So we've been talking about our game, the process of developing our game after the light, and we're going to be talking more about that, and as we sort of go along through the process, we're going to be talking about all kinds of other stuff, talking to cool people, just bringing in interesting, well, we think it's interesting content.
Yeah.
And kind of playing it by ear. If anybody wants to know anything, if anybody wants to see anything, ask anything, bring it on. Let us know.
Okay. So at some stage we should actually have a talk about the music and the mood of the game.
Right on.
So I'm not sure if that's next week or not, but certainly next week we will try to show you inside some of the levels as they're under development. So you'll get to see what those levels are going to look like. At least one representative cave in each level, I guess, in the catacombs. We'll show you some of the... what are you laughing about there? Oh yeah, is it funny to us? You'll get to see some of the characters as we develop them. At the moment, I think if you have a look at the build we've got at the moment, there are zombies in there. There's one particular type of zombie in there, and that zombie isn't textured, so that's not particularly exciting as far as a look at the characters. But we'll show you those characters outside the levels so that you can see what those characters are going to look like.
All right.
That's pretty much it. All right. Once again, I don't know what I'm doing, so we're just going to say goodbye.
Peace
and
out,
we
man.
will stop streaming. See you on Monday. Oh yes, that's right. Here in New Zealand, it's Friday. So sorry in the US, no stream for you tomorrow, unless you want to watch me in a pitiful attempt to learn how to play PUBG. So far, spent 4 hours on it and haven't killed a single person. just really bad.
That's got to be worth watching.
But other than that, there won't be a stream tomorrow, as far as I know. So our next stream
there will
for you
be a
guys,
stream. It'll be you playing PUBG.
maybe. We'll see how much I want to be humiliated.
Oh, you want to be humiliated.
So Monday our time, Monday 1 p.m. our time, which will be Sunday sometime in the US. We did actually look that stuff up, didn't we? We should mention it to them. We should have the times in front of us and read them out. So
Same time, same bat channel.
So we'll see you then. Okay, bye for now.